All right, we actually went a week without anything that major happening in the game industry. Obviously, that's probably bad for the purpose of doing things like this, but there was a sense of quietude. And I like how it's contrasted with probably more than enough happening in American politics and jurisprudence in the course of a week that I'm glad we didn't have games deciding to blow up all at the same time. So in this era of, PS4, Xbox One, people are fighting. It's not really a 50-50 fight. It's kind of a lopsided fight, at least within the YouTube comments down there below, fanboys. But I think there's one thing we can all agree on. Load screens. They aren't fun. They kind of suck. Some of them suck even worse than others. Skyrim on console, I'm looking directly at you. Look, with these two new systems, despite one potentially being, one definitely being more powerful than the other, they both have enough under the hood that we don't need to be looking at load screens, or at the very least, load screens of any significance. And this is a very good thing. I mean, I imagine everyone's going, yay, but this might have an interesting effect on game design. If you look at sort of the way in which games don't put a huge onus now on death, on there being something that you have to pay or that there's a cost. We're not seeing that in a ton of games. You tend to die, you just start a little ways back. What really has become the punishment for dying in a game has been the load screen. The interminable wait to get back in there and then have to redo a part of the game that maybe you don't want to do again, or that you have to go through another cutscene again. It's that kind of negative. And I don't think that's a good negative. That's not a good way to incentivize the player to play carefully, to play strategically. There should be things within the game. And I do think that matters like load screens, and not exclusively load screens, have led us to the idea that you should have regenerative health. These ways in which a sophisticated or even less than sophisticated player can kind of game the system to be able to stay in the game and not have to go to that load screen. I would have to say that within games that should allow you a lot of experimentation, it is the fear, the anxiety, the wasting of time, that sense of frustration that you get while watching something turn and turn and turn. It makes you play more conservatively. It makes you play more cautiously. And that sense of experimentation, that sense of invention that should be so essential to so many games out there, I think is really, really hampered by that. That gets to go away. But that hopefully we'll come up with a new way of challenge, that new way for the player to sense cost. Maybe go back to some of the more classic things that we experienced in the games of yore, which were a lot more cruel in what they made the player go through if they managed to fail, get shot in the face, fall off a cliff, or anything like that. There really will hopefully have to be a rearticulation, recalibration of that kind of challenge. One other thing I was thinking of, how many of you have learned how to play a game by virtue of the tips that you get on the load screen? Because the tutorial is so lacking in just, typically the tutorial is like, hey, press X to jump, what we all pretty much figure out, but not that, hey, if you do a sliding tackle, you might gain some health back if it's on Tuesday and the rain is falling down. That's what you always get on the load screen. No, there's gonna have to be a little bit more of a burden carried by the game itself to help instruct the player, not just how to play the fundamentals of the game, but to get the most out of it. So load screens, goodbye. I will never, ever miss you again. And if you do come back, oh, we're gonna have words. All right, guys, I haven't seen many questions down below this. What I pretty much see is just two people yelling at each other about, Sony and Microsoft. I did try to address that last week. Clearly I'm screaming into the wind. But hey, if you do have a question, I actually read what happens down below. And I would love to be able to answer one. So what I am going to do is just answer the general question that has been filling my Twitter feed forever, and that is, Adam, do you prefer Xbox One or PS4? And look, it's a legitimate question. I've said this before. I'm actually not the good person to answer with that. I will eventually, over time, probably have a sense of what console is better for what person. But for me, I'm buying both because that is my professional responsibility. And I do know that in the last generation, I tended to lean a little more 360 because I really like the controller. I do know, having held the PS4 controller, that I like it quite a bit, and that's not even going to be kind of a deciding factor which console I will play over the other. So it isn't something I can answer, but one person did ask me a question, and this reframed it in a way that made me kind of sit back and go, huh, that's interesting. They said, hey, what system should I get Watch Dogs on? And I thought, I haven't considered that either. I'm in the process of probably doing my pre-orders. I know I told everyone not to pre-order, but I have to get both, so I have it out there philosophically. I don't know. I don't know yet what the differences are between the two, but yeah, that will probably be that kind of instance when it is a multi-platform game. Where will I start to see my lean? You know, not because, maybe it's because of the performance, maybe it's because of something to do with the online, maybe it will end up being the controller, but I really don't know at this point. But at that moment, I'll probably have a sense of where I'm gonna have my preferences in terms of the two consoles. I probably won't tell any of you guys, and I'll just give you the answer I give everyone else. I'll play it on PC.